Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today we're bringing you a preview of Quests and Cannons.
The Risen Islands by Short Hop Games.
By Short Hop Games. Yes, you heard it. Hop. Little bunny rabbit there with ears, which might explain the animalistic nature of this game.
It might.
And there does happen to be a few jackalopes included, little bunny rabbits with horns.
Is that what a jackalope is?
That is what a jackalope is.
Oh, cool. I didn't know.
And, in case you were curious, yes, there is in fact a quackalope included, a little duck with a lovely set of horns.
And a bow and arrow.
And a bow and arrow, of course. We're going to be bringing you an overview of this game, doing our very best to describe the experience that you'll have on the table, what this game is doing interesting and unique, some things you should be aware of if you're considering backing it when it actually hits, I believe, either Kickstarter or GameFound. I need to double check. I think they're working on their Kickstarter page, so either way, link will always be in the top of the video description like normal. But let's go ahead and dive into this one. Should we start with some flavor text?
Sure.
Is that how we're supposed to do this Quackalope thing?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great.
From beneath the surface of...
Oh, you missed the most important part.
Story?
The story.
From beneath the surface of the ocean, a set of mysterious islands arises and mystifies the seafaring travelers of Miraheim. Strange happenings begin to unfold across the world.
Strange happenings begin to unfold across the world.
I can do this very adequately. The guardian tree of the Dwunnies that ensures a plentiful harvest becomes diseased, causing their bounty to dwindle. The Delvin Sky waterfalls that provide fresh water to their basin home begins to dry up. The port caravan herd that carries their homes on their back can no longer find their unique food source, forcing the porks to traverse the high seas in search of something they will eat. Many of the inhabitants begin to leave their homelands to settle on newly discovered islands. These curious islands are found to be plentiful in food and resources, so new life begins on the Risen Islands. In addition to food and resources, ancient writings begin to surface, telling of a series of clues leading to mythical artifacts that could be the key to saving your people. You are a champion from one of the three prominent kingdoms, tasked with ensuring the prosperity of the new island settlements, and perhaps uncovering the key to restoring balance to your homeland. While resources appear plentiful, tensions are high as the denizens of Miraheim struggle for survival. The Risen Islands are not without conflict, and old alliances mean nothing in this frontier land. Captaining your trusted ship, armed with cannons, clues, and cunning, will take you on this quest. Welcome to Quests and Cannons.
So, Quests and Cannons is going to be is it 4 or 5 players?
You can have actually a bunch of players. I believe you
can
have
a lot.
up to 6. You can have...
Does the side of the box tell me anything? Yes, it does. This is going to be a 1 to 6 player game.
I said that. You can have 2v2,
Yep.
3v3, 2v2v2.
Yep.
Or everyone is just versus each other.
You could have
free-for-all.
a free-for-all. You could have a 1 versus bots that are on the board. You could even include some automated ships to supplement a 2-player game, for instance.
Like it was saying in the flavor text, you really are representing the different kingdoms. So that's why you can have 3 factions kind of fighting each other with different members from each faction, or just 2.
So this is going to be an interesting approach and take on a seafaring pirate adventure game.
Yes.
With a bit of a pick up and deliver mechanic or core structure to it as you're traversing the landscape, doing your very best to discover resources, gain treasures, upgrade your own ships in a lot of different ways, and of course, fight battles as you traverse your way to accomplishing quests. The main objective of the game is often, but not always, get a certain amount of victory points by a certain trigger of the game. If you're working cooperatively, for instance, that trigger would be 15 total rounds to accomplish a certain amount of objectives.
Interesting. I didn't know the co-op.
Yeah,
I've only played it competitively.
And the co-op scales based off of which faction you're working with. For instance, one faction needs to make sure they return home with multiple quests. Another faction wants to complete the more challenging quests before they finish. And I think the other one needs to sink a few ships.
I believe that would be the Dwunni ducks.
Yeah,
they're a little beefy.
They're a little violent.
So
either way, you're going to have a ton of different asymmetric player powers, abilities, and ship modifiers that build out your tableau as you play, along with a hand of cards that you're able to collect and a variety of different pathways to scoring victory points. So I'm going to go through everything that people are seeing on the table here if you want to talk about the way the game is actually played. On the table here, you're going to see my ship in front of us. We've already stocked our ships up with a lot of things. When you're first starting the game, you'll probably have a lot less than what we initially have.
Each character starts with a certain amount, and then they have a max that they can reach by upgrading their ships.
And that's going to involve their sails, their cannons, and their storage.
Yep.
Storage is going to be how you accomplish quests and also upgrade your ship. Sails is going to be modifiers to your movement action as you move across the land and traverse the rocky seas. And your cannons are going to be things that you can load, firing big metal balls at other people who are sailing. It's a novel idea. It really is. One of the most innovative part of this game is the weapon that they've came up with.
A cannon on a ship.
The cannons
on the ship.
On the ships.
Additionally, each player has asymmetric powers and abilities that thematically go with each of the 3 different factions that you're representing.
For instance, my Delvish mobility, once per turn I may discard a loot card from your hand to move up to 2 additional spaces. And Song of Accuracy, once per turn you may spend 1 action point to reroll any number of your cannon rolls, so a little bit more targeted.
Mine, 20 luck, once on your turn you may discard a loot card from your hand to change a die roll to 6. Forge ammo, once per turn you may spend 1 metal to gain 3 ammo dice. Ammo dice are these black little dice.
Yeah.
You roll them, you have to get an X number of pips to kind of deal damage to the other ship.
And so each faction's top ability is going to be standard for the faction. Each character's bottom ability is going to be custom or unique to those characters. So that's going to be my player board. I have a slot to keep money. I have my sails, my action points, my dice for traversing rough or rocky seas, my cannons, my cargo, my personal player character or ship captain, and upgrade slots as I gain gear and loot. I'm going to potentially be able to lock things in. For instance, the Soothing Harp, the first treacherous sea I move on to on my turn only fails if I roll a 1.
Interesting.
So a lot more control over what I'm passing through.
It's interesting because I can spend 1 coin with my greedy sextant. I can spend a coin to treat the next stormy sea I move to as a calm sea.
Nice. So a little bit more control and mitigation over the game map. Now, out here on the game is going to be where the majority of, well, the action is taking place. Your player boards are going to modify what you're doing here. As you start moving around the board, you're going to be unveiling different tiles. You can see some with question marks and some with icons. When you move on to an island, you'll flip it over, discover the resource that civilization or that society is producing, and you'll be able to spend an action later to bring that into your cargo hold.
You also get a coin every time you discover a new island, and that's a main source of resource coin generation throughout the game. Coins are very important.
You're really encouraged to kind of spread and start uncovering those question mark locations, and every island is going to be tied to a specific quest card, which is how you're actually able to complete your missions. Now, the other thing is going to be these regions on the side of the board, and I actually really like this. You have the starting homeland for each one of the factions, the porks, the ducks, or the porks, the rabbits, and the ducks down here, and then you also have adjacent to them custom little building locations that you could move to. For instance, we have the Boulder Point Stronghold, we have the Widshear Retreat, and we have the Scroll-Bound Librarian, and each of these are going to tie to specific actions that you can take during the game state, from upgrading your own resources, accomplishing massive quests, and coming over here to the Windshear Retreat in order to do things like heal yourself and buff up certain parts of your ship.
Additionally, there are 3 central locations that don't really change from game to game, but they're trading posts that allow you to trade for goods, goods for money, goods for loot cards, which allow you to get those extra powers and abilities. The map itself has an extreme variability. Is modular. Every piece comes out, can be oriented different ways. The rulebook does suggest different ways to start it out, but then you can also do free-for-alls.
Well, and there's these small little tokens as well, which can be played down to modify, make the challenge a little bit harder, do custom scenarios, or do things like overlay and create cave systems that are, I believe, adjacent to one another, or just completely barren.
I believe completely barren.
Okay, so this is like a rocky outcrop that you're not able to sail through.
You just basically crash into and damage.
Gotcha. So there's a lot of opportunities, and I do believe as the campaign goes on, I expect to see more characters, I expect to see more modularity on the board, more scenarios that you can create. But let's talk about what you actually do when you sit down to play this game. How does a turn resolve itself?
So a turn resolves, you have 3 action points. With your ship, any number of actions, you can sail, and you can flip any number of your sail. You can move, basically, and flip any number of your sails to move an extra spot per sail that you have.
Yep.
They can only be used once per turn, and then they refresh after your turn. You can gather resources, or you can attack another ship that you're sharing a space with. So that's kind of what you do. You additionally, the map clues, you have to spend an action point to complete them. This one is while at Eagle's Landing, spend an action point to complete it, then draw a new one.
Yeah.
You either can gain a point or a loot.
Then
so
you can also stop at these port locations in order to sometimes spend an action or take free actions, like upgrade your sails, turn in contracts, equip some of your special items or special loot cards.
Here's two separate contracts. Do you want to read this one? I'll read this one.
The mother's branches. A young Dwoney is sprouting her antlers. The elders of the borough wish to give her a memento, but with the mother tree ill, they need clean wood to craft the pendant. I need to deliver wood and spice to Boulder Point Stronghold. My reward will be 3 victory points, 1 loot card, and 3 coins.
These give you a lot more powerful ones. The map clues just give you a basic one to kind of start your venturing around the board, exploring and such. This one, the Festival of Wind. Once every year in celebration, Delvin wind dancers take to the sky and glide through a sea of massive canvas kites high above festival grounds below. The objective is to deliver a canvas and a medal to Windshire Retreat, and I would get 3 points, 1 loot card, and 2 coins.
Yeah.
You can see by the different quests and stuff, some of them have a more treacherous background and some of them have a lighter background. The lighter ones give you less rewards but are easier to accomplish. The more treacherous backgrounds, like some of them even give you 5 points if you accomplish it.
Yep.
But these resources are much more scarce.
When we were playing last night, that was how I won, I believe.
Yeah, you got a 5-point card at once. So the resources, as you discover the resources, you have when you upload your ship, I forget, like loading up your cargo holds, you can take as many of that one resource as you want. If you go to another point, you can discard however many spots you want to upload with that one.
Which gives you the opportunity to stop at a trading post. You're not limited entirely by, one action per resource over and over and over again. So that's going to be the basic structure of the game. On your game, you're going to be doing your very best to maneuver around, unveil different tiles, and like I said, complete quests to drive for victory points. It really is a interesting little helter-skelter kind of pick up and deliver system. And the person that is able to maximize their efficiency or knock the other players out of the ocean are going to be able to secure and kind of walk home with victory. One of the unique things about this game, however, is going to be the modularity of not only the board itself, but also the player styles. Okay. You can play this as a solo versus AI. You could play this as, like we were saying, a 6-player head-to-head, everyone free-for-all. You could play as a team of 2v2v2, everyone trying to accomplish. And so depending on how you want to approach this as a game group and how you want to sit down and experience the puzzle that you're solving, you can play it full co-op all the way to fully competitive. And I gotta be honest, the gameplay style is interesting and engaging at any of those. I learned this cooperatively and then got a chance to sit down with you and play it head-to-head competitively.
Yeah.
So things we like, things people should be aware of before backing the Kickstarter. What's on your radar?
I like the variability. I like how the puzzle changes with each game, also based on your character. Like, my character was very much fighting, so I was really meaning to target your ship. If I would have damaged your ship, you would have lost the resources that you were trying to deliver, which would have harmed you with your quest-seeking ability. So I love that variability. I like how it's a different puzzle with finding the different clues that allow you to traverse the board optimally to then accomplish the quests. So I like that puzzle. Yeah, I enjoyed the bits of little flavor text and narrative. I was reading them as we were playing through. I also, despite not liking the artwork when I first encountered it, I didn't like the artwork. It has that 8-bit pixelated style, like it looks kind of like an old school video game, which some people really dig, but for me, it just doesn't always sit right with me. I actually, assuming the prototype gets a bit more contrast than it has, like a bit more deeper blacks when it's fully produced, I actually really like how the board kind of displays itself when you're sitting down to play. I love the surrounding tiles and how everything is kind of adjacent to zones you need to return home to or you need to engage with. There's always something to do. No, I think this does what it wants to do very, very well. It's a pick up and deliver, quest-based sort of brawl in the center. It does pirate theme well, allows me to upgrade different elements of my ship and play with new characters that have abilities that really do change the way that I'm trying to solve the puzzle or how I'm trying to approach the puzzle. I also like Cooperative Mode. Cooperative Mode is fairly simple. It's only a page in the rulebook. And what it does is it sets up AI ships that whenever they're close enough to you to engage are always going to move to you and always going to fire. This means that the board itself starts having this moving or rotating puzzle of ships that you have to kind of navigate around.
So instead of like an AI where you're flipping a card and it's hunting you constantly, it's kind of like some of these hazardous tiles decide they want to pick up and head in your direction.
Interesting.
It just
you
changes the
can also draw them, I guess, to other players if you wanted to.
You absolutely could. You could kite one around towards another player, for sure. So it just changes the puzzle slightly and introduces another threat for you to engage with, or something else, so the ocean doesn't feel quite as open and quite as barren if you're playing a head-to-head two-player game. Some things for people to be aware of if you are interested in this game so far. I'd say the weakest experience we've had so far would be the head-to-head two-player competitive mode. I don't think it shines there.
I don't think so either. The board is too big that we really didn't interact with each other much. We weren't getting in each other's way.
We were focused on our quests.
So it kind of didn't feel so interactive with each other. I think co-op would have been better at that player count.
Yeah, and then I think as you get to higher player counts, you have the opportunity for a group to kind of team up on or knock someone out of the game if one person continues being bullied. And there's certainly the opportunity for sort of punch the king style gameplay. Whoever is leading the charge or scored 5 or 8 victory points in a single go might get a few cannons fired in his direction as they're playing the game, just because everyone else wants to try to control the map and keep them from maneuvering around. They really are going to have to upgrade their ships and get to a position where they can kite or get through some of these hazardous waters before they're able to kind of close the victory.
One thing that I also wanted more of was that killing another opponent was more punitive.
Sure.
You don't really lose points. You lose stuff from your ship.
Right now you lose items from your ship and you get knocked back, I believe, to your home zone.
You do, and you lose one of your 2 ship upgrades.
Okay.
So it's a little more punitive over here, but it's not punitive on the scoring track. So if you were targeting a runaway leader, they would still have their points.
The issue with that would be trying to keep someone from winning constantly. And in a 6-player game, 5 people would gang up on one person, and then 5 people would gang up on another person, and you'd have a cycle where you potentially never win.
I don't know if 6-player free-for-all would be the best way to play this either. I think 6 players, you could play 3 versus 3 or 2 versus 2 versus 2.
Yeah.
I think that would be a little bit better because that way you have someone always on your team as well,
someone
helping
working
you
with
out.
you. I think that's where this game's, for me, going to be strongest. Either cooperatively at 2 players or teams of 2 versus 2, or competitively at probably the 3 to 5 range is where I'm thinking it's going to be the strongest. I don't think the highest or the lowest versions of the game is going to be as interesting or engaging as I'd like it to be.
Another thing from our first gameplay that the whole table kind of agreed with was when you deal damage to another ship, you don't really get incentivized for dealing that first, second, third, fourth damage. You only get points if you kill them off. So one player can deal 4 things of damage, and another player can swoop in on their turn and just deal the last damage and get all the points. So it would be nice if you got a little bit of a reward for dealing each point of damage along the way.
But overall, this is a interesting game. If you like pirate-themed games, if you like games that involve a bit of competitive head-to-head with the option for a good, rewarding cooperative mode, you like the artwork, you like the theme, this is one that I would encourage you to go check out. On, I believe, Kickstarter. I'm never sure now with GameFound and Kickstarter both being active. Again, link always in the top description of this video. So, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. Whatever the case, whatever you do,
remember to do the important thing. Get out and play some games. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Have a good one.